My name is Martin Nelson. Can you all hear me? Yes. I prefer to be... Oh, I'm going to get a bit of sound anyway. Is that right? Coming along. Haha. Okay. So thank you, Toby, for doing that workshop, ending the last session with some singing, because I too am a singer, and so is Michael, who's going to take over in about 15 minutes' time, and then we're going to have 10 minutes Q&A. I've got 15 minutes of the floor, and I'm going to use the floor because I want to have a little bit of interaction. But we were thinking of having a bit of a vocal workshop anyway, but you've done it for us, which is good, because there's quite a lot to cover. So just for a bit of history, my name is Martin Nelson, and 40 years ago, I designed London's first cycle route, 1977, and not a big deal, but it's kind of been a helpful hook for me, because in the last 3 years I've cycled about 2,000 miles and knitted up a system of cycling all the way around London, a cycling orbital. It's a recreational cycling idea, and the principle is that you take your bike from, you can come into the southeast England, because I'm going to give you a map in a minute to show, but you take your bike principally on the train out of commuter hours to the limit of the oyster zone, and then you have a nice bike ride out into the countryside. And the principle is that all the routes are off-road or on really quiet lanes. So that's my C25 instead of the M25. I'll show you that very quickly. But what I mainly want to talk about is my equinox idea, which is also orbital and cyclical. So thank you for sitting in a circle. Here's the C25 very quickly. If you can just see it, I'm placing it this way for reasons that will become apparent. You can't read it, of course, but you might get an idea of the scope. That is central London, and that is the oyster zone. And then this Salvador Dali clock face of 12 arcs, 12 spin-offs, and 12 spokes is what comprise the C25 system. Okay? It needs an app, and I've written quite a bit of the book that should accompany it, but the idea is that you take yourself off from this polluted central London and have a nice ride and enjoy really beautiful countryside around London. I won't say any more than that, except, for instance, these are the last 2 trips that I took. I live here in Camden, and the reason why, I'll say straight away, the reason why I'm showing the map like this, that is north, this will become important, that is west, that is east, and that is south. So you're the lucky people to see the map the right way up, okay? So I took the last 2 rides. I took my bike to Charing Cross and went to Hayes in Kent, and I cycled spoke 2 to Darwin's home, Down House, where he thought and worked for 40 years. And that's a very moving place to visit. On I went, and I joined the C25 in Arc 5 and went counterclockwise. I didn't go through Chevening House, which is where the Home Secretary lives, but I would have liked to have done, because I talk about the Chevening diversion, because Chevening House, the Foreign Secretary's place, cuts you off from the Pilgrim's Way, where Chaucer's characters went to Canterbury. And there's a 2-mile stretch of the Pilgrim's Way which is not obtainable, but I reckon it could be and should be. It's a part of our history. So I talk about the Chevening diversion. And then I went to Lullingstone Roman Villa, and then I went to Swanley Station, and I went home. So that's a typical C25 ride that you could do. The other one I did 2 days ago to get some of the autumn colours. I took the train to Uxbridge. I went on the Grand Union Canal, then through Langley Park, Burnham Beeches to Cliveden, and I observed the fluvio-glacial terraces. I used to be a geography teacher, that might be starting to become apparent, where the Thames has dug in since the Ice Age to create this terrace at Cliveden, the famous place where the Profumo affair took place. The Astor's joint, yeah. And then I cycled back via the Jubilee River, which is a storm drain to protect Windsor and Eton, to West Drayton Station. So that was just all spoke 8. I went like that with a little bit of arc. Okay? So that's a project that's in development. And did I say that I'm a jobbing singer? I did, yes, that's right. So that's all I wanted to say in introduction, and all I really want to say about the C25, except that I've got to have an app to go with it. It's all logged on Gypsies. I've done that much of the job. So Gypsies is an open source website, so that I can. It's closed for the moment, but if you're really interested in cycling and live in London, I'm happy to open that up to you. And I need beta testers to check out the C25. I need people to check out the pubs and the cafes along the way, and enjoy themselves too. Okay, and I do need an app expert to develop what would be quite a complicated app to make it simple to use. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about the C25. What I really want to talk to you is about the equinox. Okay, now I have a feeling in this room, I don't want to teach grandmothers to suck eggs, and you maybe understand the equinoxes, but so many people don't. And anyway, let's just animate the equinoxes, and this could be useful for you to get people to understand essentially the Earth process that the equinoxes can teach us about the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. So 4 volunteers, please, to stand. Thank you. Will you go north?
Yeah. How many do you
Will you go, it's 4, just 4. Will you go south? Thank you, Emma. Will you go east? Actually, go beyond the table, I think. Go up high, is that okay? All right. And, sorry, will you be west? All right. And then Belinda, because of your hair, and because of one of the first names that I got, would you be the sun? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, I need you to tilt back about 23.5 degrees, okay? Like that. Okay? Is that okay? Is that comfortable?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm being the Earth, am I? No.
You are being the Earth, yes. This will all be you. Would you tilt about 23.5 degrees to your right?
All right.
Okay, like that. Shadow me. Will you do the same tilt? Like that. You don't have to hold it up too long, but and then would you tilt back? I put a foot back. Okay, 23.5 degrees. Keep straight with your core here, and think about your belly button, because that is the equator. And of course, you are the Earth at these 4 critical moments in the orbit around the Sun. Get a little bit more comfy, because you're going to just be there for a couple more minutes. I won't do any more than that. And here is Belinda as the Sun. All right, you are shining now north, and this is December the 21st, and this is the winter solstice, and the back half is pointing away. Sorry, your name? Sorry.
I'm Ruth.
I know you're Ruth. I know you're Ruth. Ruth, back half is pointing away from the sun. It is the shortest day in the northern hemisphere. It is the longest day in the southern hemisphere. All right. Okay. Let's deal with south. And oh no, you should be everybody. You should be pointing the same way. That was my mistake. Forgive me. That's right. The tilt of the Earth's axis is the same, 23.5 degrees, as it goes around the Earth. So you're pointing forward, and then of course this is the longest day on June the 21st, and it's in the southern hemisphere the shortest day. Okay, here are the equinoxes. Now this is the interesting thing. All right, the tilt remains the same as the Earth goes round, but at this moment, which is midday on, we're going to do spring first, on March the 20th or the 21st, it depends. At the moment of equinox, at midday, the sun is overhead Emma's belly button, Gemma's belly button, which is the equator. Okay? That is the moment of equinox. All right? Likewise here, the tilt, as it were, is cancelled out. There is no tilt with reference to the plane of the ecliptic. All right? So again, at your belly button, at 12 o'clock, at the moment of equinox, on September the 22nd, 23rd, there is the overhead sun. I think you can stand down. Is that clear? Does that help? Does that help? Yeah? Good. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Right, a bit of history. At the beginning of the environment movement, Margaret Mead, a famous American environmentalist, decided we needed an Earth Day, and she chose the vernal equinox in 1969. But a Senator Gaylord Nelson, no relation, decided that didn't quite fit in with the American educational system, and he moved Earth Day to April the 22nd. A random event. Also, Margaret Mead didn't notice the power of the equinoxes, really. She chose the vernal equinox, but she ignored the autumnal equinox, and that was that. So for 1 year, one of the equinoxes was the Earth Day. They are planet events, and they've got nothing to do with humans. There have been billions of equinoxes. There will be billions of equinoxes. All right? So just really let that sink in, because I think this is really important. They missed that trick. They missed lots of tricks beside the fact that you can have 2 events per year is kind of helpful, but just leave that to one side for the moment. They miss that fact. Now then, what is special about an equinox? On February the 19th, 2003, there was a shock and awe attack on Baghdad. And I thought, that's a strange thing. I just knew it, the equinox was coming up within 24 hours. And I thought, that's a strange thing to happen at the equinox. It took some years to rattle around with it. But that was the trigger in my head. And I thought that equinox. I just noticed the equal part of that word. What a strange thing to do on a word which has equality. So I thought long in time about the equinox. And of course, at these moments, we are equal under the sun. The entire planet has 12 hours night and day as the Earth revolves through that day of equinox. So there are literal planet days, but there also is a metaphorical sense that we are equal under the sun. We have a shared destiny on this planet. That's the polar bears, it's the penguins, it's the Amazonians, it's everybody. We have that shared moment. So I've got equalunderthesun.org as a website, and that's where I am with this really enormous idea. But the forgotten Earth Day. Okay, so what can you do on an Earth Day? People say, what do you do on an equinox? I reverse that. What would you do on an equinox? I mean, there are Earth Days, there's the World Wildlife Fund Earth Hour, there are all sorts of environmental events that take place, but none of them have this unique property of logically being actual Earth Days when we are equal under the sun. And these are twin logical pillars on which to build something which could be understood by everybody. So, that's what I peddle. Just another thought about that before I move on to the second section of EQ, is that if we zoom out, and again I'm going to use history, 1968, Christmas Eve, it's interesting, it's 68, 69 was quite an important time, I think, probably in history might be looked at, was the first time we saw the Earth as a planet hanging in the sky. It's called Earthrise, it's a famous picture. And Bill Anders, I think it is, who took the picture on Apollo 13, I think I'm right, or was it 11? But anyway, Christmas Eve, 1968, was the first time that we have seen our home planet suspended in space. So that's very new thoughts to have for humanity. We've been living in tribes, And we've lived without understanding the fact that we are interdependent on one planet. It's just 2 generations. Okay? So I feel as though an equinox is a moment to zoom out, boundaries disappear, and we can, in our imaginations, we don't have to be Commander Hadfield and actually go there, and all the astronauts go out and they say it changes their perception of the world, that it is just one place, one small little planet, and the pale blue dot of Carl Sagan and all these sort of thoughts. Okay? So we can do that. We can zoom out in our imagination and imagine the Earth as one place that we cohabit. I hope that that can be useful to disseminate what you and we all collectively feel about where we're at. Then we can zoom back in and we can imagine our place on that planet, and what can we do? Well, what would you do on an Earth Day? Okay, this is what my daughter made for me. Little mug. Spring. Spring into action. Autumn. Turn over a new leaf. So that's a simple, practical idea that might resonate with you and help you in your thinking and your dissemination of how you feel the world must be changed. Okay? So, spring into action, turn over a new leaf. That's something you could do. All right? Seamus Heaney, funnily enough, in the Globe Theatre, I did an opera in the Globe Theatre with the words by Seamus Heaney, Antigone, so I tried EQ out on him. And he said it's a big, simple idea. EQ stems from and pays into, which is a nice poetic way of thinking about it. Stems from and pays into the idea of one planet. Okay, how am I doing? Oh, was that 15 already? That took very short time. Yeah, okay. Well, I wanted to talk about climate change, but I do want to just show this book to you. Written in 1930. Straight and Crooked Thinking. This is to think about where we are now with truth and lies. This was written as fascism and Stalinism was taking over, and it's a primer for logical thinking. The equinoxes are logically planet days. The equinoxes, we are metaphorically equal under the sun. I think that's something we've got to build too. So I've done my 15. Are you ready to go? I wanted to say something. I wanted to bridge to Michael with a couple of musical thoughts. Can I? Can I do that? So the bridge to Michael is that tonight I will be singing in 2.5 hours' time. I'll be on stage at the Royal Opera House singing the Sicilian Vespers, and I'm a pusillanimous Sicilian peasant in 2.5 hours' time. And the princess calls us to arms, and I've got to be singing this. I thought it just sort of resonates with where we are at here. She says, "What good are these vain prayers? Is there no longer blood in your veins? Overwhelmed by fear and stupor, you tremble in the face of danger. Arise into the fury of the storms which raise above your heads. Awake, bestir yourselves." And we feeble peasants start to feel the blood rise. You know, we have a wonderful chorus and we get more and more excited. What stirring tones, what language. At the sound of her voice, my courage already revives. Yes, let us break out of our slavery. And at the same time, because music can do two things at once, the occupying French forces are saying, this brilliant warbling, I prefer drinking this wonderful drink which already intoxicates me. So we have a fight on our hands. That's what I'm going to say to myself tonight. You know, we really have to believe in what we do believe in and engage, because it's getting quite serious out there. That's why I wanted to talk about climate change, but I think we all know what we feel about that. Okay? All right. Michael.